Hey everyone, and welcome back to another report, and this is a very strange one. So the long-awaited and repeatedly delayed Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has suffered another blow this week when it was revealed that the lead narrative designer, Brian Mitsoda, and creative director, Kai Clooney, were fired. Now, the thing here is that Brian is seen as the face of the franchise, and he has said that the whole thing came out of the blue. He said there was no inner conflict between himself, the developer, or the publisher. So yes, everyone here is confused, and while we were a little bit worried about the future of the game, I think we now absolutely are worried because this has happened again just around the same time as yet another delay. So suffice to say, there is plenty to get into in today's report. Of course, if you want more, hit that sub button. We are doing near daily gaming news, coverage, and analysis. So that's what's up. Hit that sub button if you want more, and with that said, let's get going. The context to all of this is that the game has been delayed a few times over the last year. Back in October, Hardsuit announced that it would be pushed to late 2020 in order to avoid repeating the mistakes of the first game. And by the way, Masquerade 1, well, you know, it released too early, it was plagued by technical issues, which of course modders fixed, but still, that wasn't really a good situation. Now, at the time of the statement, it sounded like everyone was happy enough with Bloodlines 2's, story, characters, things like that, and it truly was a situation where they just needed a bit more time to actually get it right. And that seemed good. I mean, the first game was praised for its writing, and fans were also pretty happy to see Brian Mitsoda was still involved. But fast forward to August 2020, and we got another delay, this time pushing it back to 2021. Now, in a joint statement released by Hardsuit Labs and Paradox, the publisher, they said the delay was needed to ensure the best player experience possible. And that all sounds like typical delay stuff, right? It totally does. But the statement also mentioned organizational changes. At the time, that was not elaborated upon, but now we know what has happened. In another joint statement, Hardsuit and Paradox confirmed that Mitsoda and Clooney were no longer part of the team, and that the dismissal was a joint decision made by the leadership of the dev and publisher. Now, when you're in a situation where you've got two of your top creatives, including one who is basically the face of the project, right? Comes from the first game, is well respected by the fans, and a joint decision has been made by dev and publisher's leadership. It kind of just sounds like they all got together and decided, yeah, we're going to get rid of these guys. So that certainly is very suspect. Now, to fill that void, someone called Alexander Mandrika, I don't know how to pronounce that, to be honest with you, but he's been brought in to basically be a creative consultant. Now, his career spans 20 years. He did some time at Ubi consulting on Prince of Persia, Assassin's Creed, Splinter Cell, Far Cry, things like that. But the thing is, that's not exactly a fan-favorite way to replace, an established creative director and narrative lead, one of whom is kind of the face of the project. So that's all a bit strange. That is what has happened, but Brian has responded, so let's talk about his response. Brian made a surprisingly lengthy statement to Rock Paper Shotgun where he basically outlines that to say that it came as a shock would be underselling it, that he was terminated. He writes that he was suddenly terminated back in July, and that means that the two of them who left, that they left before the delay was announced. Now, on the topic of the recent delay, Brian said that he was not part of the conversations regarding that delay, and in fact, he says that to his knowledge, there were no delays caused by Bloodlines 2's narrative development, and he says that he's confident and he's proud of the work that him and his team did, and he emphasized that he was never led to believe that he had not succeeded, right, in his capacity, in his job. So he's in this weird position, it seems, where he worked in this game for a long-ass time. His job's going well, his team's doing well, maybe the game's a little bit delayed, but it seems like all things are going okay. And then he gets axed, and then a statement comes out that says that the publisher and developer's leadership came to a joint decision to remove him and his colleague. And you just wonder there, what the hell is going on? Now, Brian worked in Bloodlines 2 for almost 5 years. The story and the main cast of the game, which, for a game like that, by the way, pretty important, they were conceived in his living room. So this is a guy who was really core, really close to the project. He, in fact, helped to pitch for Hardsuit Labs, and he also helped pitch to Paradox, the publisher. And of course, he also lent his legacy to the franchise. He was active in promoting it, occasionally to the point where it took a mental and a physical toll. So the guy was really just going ham on making this thing a reality, so he says. And yeah, he had been in charge of narrative ever since the beginning of the game. So for all of that to suddenly come to an end in a way that, I mean, is it dramatic? No, because there's not been, accusations being hurled about, but it's dramatic in how sudden it is, and I think that probably means that something's going on here. Now, on the face of it, this is extremely disappointing, I think both for Brian himself, given the amount of blood, sweat, and tears it seems he put into this game, but also the game's fan base, who, would be really, really deep, because Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1 is a much, much beloved game, especially with mods to clean it up. So for the second game to have, basically core guy from the first game coming on board and, leading the narrative, and then for him to be gone, I mean, you add that to the fact that, yes, there's been delays, and I think there's extreme worry. And dipping into the Bloodlines community, I mean, this isn't surprising. It's pretty obvious many people are not happy with this decision. Now, many people have expressed concerns at how the game was progressing because of the delays and stuff, but I don't think that was a super pressing thing. And of course, Brian returning to help, I mean, that really did lend just a sense of authenticity to the game. And we're now at a situation where that stuff had been going maybe cautiously okay, but with him leaving, and people just sort of falling back to thinking, oh, it's just, irreconcilable creative differences maybe, right? That's one of the default things you expect. So with people using that rationale, I mean, it's a bit worrying. Now, if the game's current creative trajectory is maybe just so severely at odds with one of the core creatives, or whatever's going on that's led to him leaving, and then you've got delays, it makes you wonder about the state of the game. And, I mean, you would think that something as extreme as this would have been causing friction for a while at the company, but Brian actually is seemingly adamant that everything was, totally fine until he just one day was axed. Now, of course, it's not unusual for devs to leave a project when it's still in the works, but it is weird for a creative lead and public face of the game to so suddenly be axed without any explanation, even to the stage where, I mean, what he's saying, either he is so completely gagged that he's got to say what he said to Rock, Paper, Shotgun, or he genuinely has no idea why he's no longer employed there. Whatever it is very strange, and given the delays, and then this happening as well, I think the community are rightly extremely concerned, and I think that their hunger for answers is, it's something that if it's not satiated, it's just going to go on, right? It's just going to get more extreme, and people really are going to worry, and I have to wonder if this will actually, well, if the game comes out and is half decent, if this will actually still manage to hurt it. And really, that's as far as we can go with today's report. The whole situation is extremely strange. I mean, typically when there's high-profile things like this, you kind of hear about, internal ill dealings or public disagreements, but that doesn't seem to have happened with Minnesota and Clooney, right? It's so weird. It looks like they were just simply pushed out in the final stretch of the game. Now, though Brian Mitsoda does maintain that he was never given any indication that management were unhappy with his works, there have been rumors of internal strife at Hardsuit Labs for a while now, and with the newest wave of talent also seemingly taking issues with certain elements of the first game and stating their intention to fix, overhaul, or remove some of those aspects. I mean, that talk didn't go well with fans, but I think combine that with Brian going, and you're just in there for a storm of not a good time for the fan base. And just, given his involvement particularly, that's something that gave Bloodlines 2 authenticity in the eyes of the most hardcore sort of side of the fan base. That was good for marketing, right, for the game. It really did lend it that credence. And it seems like the two of them did lay a pretty authentic groundwork for what this game would be, so them going out the door is just bizarre. Now, the situation right now is that there's still no official release date in sight beyond 2021, so with the narrative and creative leadership seemingly just being overhauled out of the blue, it's going to be interesting to see what state Bloodlines 2 actually arrives in, or when it arrives. I mean, will there be another delay in 6 months? And when the game actually does come out, will we hear more from Brian about what the hell went on, or maybe how the game deviated from his vision? It certainly will be interesting to find out. I wish there was more we could bring you with this quick little report, but yeah, just an odd situation. So let me know what you think. Of course, if you want more, reports, roundups, all the things that we do, you can hit that sub button for loads of gaming news. And yeah, let me know what you think. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.